We're back in the Majestic Arms booth for our annual stop by and see what great new stuff has Dino come up with tour. So Dino has the easiest interview in the entire show. What's new?
Hi Jack, how are you? Well, now Ruger has released the Mark IV. It's a 22 semi-auto pistol similar to the Mark IIIs and earlier guns, but what's really different is the entire dismantling system. The gun came out about 2 months ago, and so what we did was we came out with a great product line of 8 new products to upgrade the Mark IV the same way we've always done on Ruger Mark IIs and Mark IIIs.
Amazing. Why don't you, well, I tell you what, why don't you show them the new system on there, and then we'll discuss the differences between the Mark IV and the Mark III parts for the master kit,
okay,
and what that master kit actually is.
Okay, great. What's different on the Mark IV is that when you want to dismantle it, you'll check to make sure the gun's not loaded. You'll remove your magazine, you'll close your bolt, but now you'll lock your safety, which is ambidextrous. There's one on the right and left side. You'll lock your safety to the safe position, and you've got a push button in the back that unlocks very similar to that of an over and under shotgun, and your upper receiver pivots and hinges away. You've got a hinge point here, a locating pin, and a wedged lock in the back. When you go to put it back together, you get your upper receiver pivoted onto your grip frame, you bring the pin in to locate the two, and then you squeeze them together until they lock back together. And that's really a tremendous innovation, and they've taken away the frustration and the things that have driven people nuts about these guns for years.
But they just really ticked off about 5,000 gunsmiths who made an awful lot of money putting those mainspring housings back in.
Well, perhaps they have, but they've given me a blank canvas and a whole new gun to start to work on and upgrade and bring you the same products we've always done for the Mark IIs and the Mark IIIs.
What other changes have they made to the Mark IV?
Well, one of the things that Ruger did was they went with an ambidextrous safety, as I mentioned earlier, and you can, if you wish, remove the right side for only a traditional safety. The other thing they did was they were plagued with people complaining about the magazines sticking in the frame.
Right.
So they installed a spring-loaded magazine ejector, and even if I hold the gun upside down, the magazine has enough force to be ejected from the frame. In a normal firing position, once that button is hit, be prepared to catch your magazine. I mean, it actually shoots right out. So that was the other change they made. The bolt stop is still pretty much the same, although it's a different part. The magazine latch is very familiar to everybody. It's still the same thing. Those are really the big changes they made externally that the customer will notice right away.
Okay. All right. You mentioned there were a couple of problems that you thought were going to be difficult with the Mark IV. Why don't we talk about how you addressed those?
Well, the first thing that we did was we started on the whole new master trigger kit for the Mark IV. One of the things about these guns that I kind of wanted to improve upon, the Mark IV comes out of the box with a 2-stage trigger pull. There's approximately 1/4 of an inch of pre-travel in the first stage prior to takeoff.
But that's pretty much like they've all been, right?
Well, they've all been that way, but I wanted to make that better. I really wanted to improve upon that. So we made a whole new trigger kit. We call it the Master Kit. We were making them all ready for the Mark IIIs and for the 2245s. People love them. So what we had to do was make a whole new one for the Mark IV. So now what we were able to do by tightening up the tolerances and leaving one small spot on the disconnector bar oversized for final fitting, we're able to get it all the way down to a 1/16 of an inch. It's as close to a true single-stage trigger that you can get in a Ruger Mark pistol of any type.
I can certainly attest to that. Why don't you show us the differences? Well, exactly how does this master kit work on the parts and the differences between the Mark IV pieces and the Mark I, II, III pieces?
Okay. Well, the fun part about it all is each and every part was very similar to its predecessor, but each and every part still needed to be re-engineered and new ones needed to be manufactured.
Of course.
The trigger itself, one of the things we did on our trigger is we made our trigger longer than the factory original to utilize as much space in the trigger guard was available. We straightened out the radius. It's still got a radius, but not quite as much as the original. This way, by straightening it, making it longer, you've got more leverage on it. You can also move your finger up and down and pick your own sweet spot. And we gave it an over-travel adjustment screw. What we did with the hammers, one thing that's different now is in previous guns, you had to choose which kit you ordered, whether you wanted to keep or omit the magazine disconnecting feature. I didn't do that this time. I machined the hammer so that it will accept the mag disconnector, but I supply the customer with a set of bushings and spacers so you may omit the mag disconnector if that's your choice, or you may keep the mag disconnector if you wish.
Cool.
The sear was similar to that of a Mark III, yet different enough. The original part was much longer and much heavier. We reduced its size and its mass by approximately 50% and made a very high quality CNC machine sear. And the hammer and sear come to the customer pre-cut, pre-honed, and matched for a 2 to 2 1/2 pound trigger pull. But the heart of the kit was the disconnector bars. Now I'll hold one of each up for people to see, and what we'll do is we'll put the original, the Mark II and III style on the top, and we'll put the Mark IV on the bottom. The original Mark II and III style had a squared off style window, whereas the new one, it's more of a trapezoidal and a slanted on the front. And they did that so that during the disconnection cycle, it loses contact with the bushing and it reduces friction that it takes to operate the disconnector bar, which also reduces the friction that it takes to put the disconnector bar back into its original firing sequence.
So you can lighten the spring a little.
So you can lighten the spring a little bit there as well. Now what we did different in our disconnector bars for the master kit, and this was really the heart of it to give you that short stroke on the trigger and get you down to as close as I can get you to a single stage trigger pull, is the small tab which engages the sear. We intentionally measured and gauged the originals, then added a full 20 thousandths of an inch. So when it comes to you, it actually won't fit. This is the only part we sell that requires the last little bit of fitting. And it's a very small amount, it's an easy task. The amount of material that you're going to remove will be between 8 and 12 thousandths of an inch so that you get just the perfect carry up with the shortest possible stroke on the trigger, which equals the quickest possible return and reset on the trigger. Very popular with competitive shooters, especially in the steel sports.
And really, because of all the stacking of tolerances that occurs in these guns, you really couldn't make it a drop-in fit and have it do any good.
No, we looked into that. If I were to make it a drop-in fit, I wouldn't be giving you something that was really that much better than the original. In order to really give you something where you're really going to notice a difference, we had to leave a couple of things oversized for that one little final fit, and it really made a difference.
And you're only talking, as narrow as that is, you're only talking a few strokes with a file.
A couple of strokes with a file and finish up with an aluminum oxide half-inch square stone, and you're all good to go.
All right. I was going to say also on that sear, since you don't have the long tail on that anymore, you don't have that added leverage, and again, you can lighten that sear spring.
Well, we actually decided not to work with the Ruger sear spring. We felt it was really too heavy for the applications, so we fabricated a new one at a full 50% reduction in its yield.
So basically, that's the parts that are the same in both previous guns and this gun. I mean, there's minor differences, but that's the same part.
The same concept as far as the trigger pull and the shorter stroke.
Why don't you show us the two parts that are absolutely specific to these Mark IVs, the mag ejector and your new lockup system.
Okay.
Here.
Well, one of the things Ruger did with the Mark IV, they've had a lot of complaints because the gun does incorporate a magazine disconnector if you choose to keep it. They did have a lot of complaints about magazines sticking in the frame. If you notice, I'll give you a demo, these don't do that. What Ruger did was they installed a spring-loaded magazine ejector. And I'll see if Keith can get a good look at that. So that actually, you compress that, and it holds the energy, and then it literally ejects the magazine from the frame. But the original factory part was a piece of plastic, and I didn't envision it having a very long lifespan, particularly in the rigorous steel sports where there's a lot of slapping going on, banging and clanging and running. So we duplicated the part in a 6061 aircraft grade aluminum, so it's far more durable and stronger than the factory original. But then the other feature, which you just mentioned, the locking block, I'll use the stainless gun because it might be easier to see. This is a pivoting system very akin to what people would have previously seen in an over and under or a double barrel shotgun. And you want that to be a nice tight lockup. The original part did indeed allow for some play in the action between your upper receiver and your lower grip frame.
We have to have some of their manufacturing tolerances, so that's...
Precisely. And so they dealt with that. I'm going to dismantle this gun and show you. This has our new bank vault locking block. The original gun comes out of the box with a rubber plug. So when you close your upper receiver to your grip frame, you're actually squeezing and compressing a rubber plug. That seems to work out okay, but over time, and even a very short period of time, the rubber plug will indeed deteriorate, which immediately allows play between your upper receiver and your grip frame, which will cause accuracy to suffer and drop off. So what I did was, and I think the better way to do this is actually show the part out of the frame.
Right.
We duplicated the frame lug of the Ruger. But instead of a rubber plug, we went and we installed a stainless steel threaded column. From each side, right and left, I brought in a little set screw. And what you do is you put in the new Majestic Arms bank vault locking block. You leave your set screws loose at first. With an Allen key, you adjust the steel column till it makes perfect contact to the upper receiver, and you get a nice tight lockup, a nice thunk it should make. When you're happy with your adjustment, take the frame lug out, tighten the two set screws, and you've set your adjustment. You're good to go for 3 to 4 to 5 years. Down the road, if your gun begins to wear, which it will, a little bit of play occurs, merely recalibrate your adjustments and you'll maintain the fit. So what we'll do now is we'll put this one back together. We start by taking the upper receiver, putting it right to its pivot point. Very similar to the way you would put together a shotgun. Now at this point, you get the pin into alignment. When you bring the upper to the lower, this now makes a nice tight lockup, and if you feel that, Jack, you'll feel little or no play from your upper receiver to your grip frame.
There is none.
And that's infinitely adjustable. It'll compensate for wear, and it'll last indefinitely.
Yeah, you can feel that tension up.
Yeah, and you can feel it make a nice tight lockup, hence the name the bank vault locking block, to make your Ruger Mark IV lock up like a bank vault.
Bank of England, right? All right, let's see, that pretty much covers that, I think. Anything else about those we need to talk about, or we got it all?
No, I think you pretty much got it. What we've got here is we have, I'll tip it, this is the master kit for a Ruger Mark IV. This is the master kit for the Ruger Mark III. We've got them for Mark IIIs, 2245s, and earlier Mark IIs as well. So we've got a master trigger kit with an oversized disconnector bar for each and every Ruger pistol from the Mark II series on up.
Money?
They retail for $139.
Okay. And what about the the bank vault locking?
The bank vault locking block. Right now I'm finishing up my final quotes. We just got the sampling done in time to be here at SHOT Show, but that'll retail in the ballpark for about $40.
Okay. And then also, again, you mentioned you only have the 2 ejectors here in the show guns.
The ejectors, again, we hustled to get this ready for SHOT. We're going to market that for about $14.95.
Wow, that's a heck of a deal. What a guy.
Nice to see you again, Jack.